Mm-hmm.
Hey, crazy friends.
Hey, guys.
It's Jay and Francis with Find Your Crazy. We're a family of 9 who live full-time in our RV with 5 of our kids as we travel the country to see every national park. And as we travel and see those parks, we want to share those great information with you so that when you go and see these amazing places, you can maximize your time there with your family. And today we're doing the second part of our tour guide of Acadia National Park. That's right, it's so big we had to break it up into 2 parts.
So
and
good.
This is part 2. So Acadia is one of our top national parks.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is an absolute must-see if you love national parks and just that rustic beauty. I mean, there's just something about Maine and that area, the coastline. And so as we talked about in the last video, the problem with Acadia is it's so big, there's so much to see, and it's broken up into lots of little pieces. So like a lot of the national parks, you know, you can just take a pen and draw a circle right around the park. It's all one piece of land. Acadia National Park is not like that. It is a lot of pieces of different land that the national park has pulled together, which means there's lots of public land and private land and towns all mixed in with it. And so it's kind of spread out in that way. So in our last video, we talked about what is the iconic heart of Acadia, and that is the loop road that goes around Cadillac Mountain. If there's only one thing, if you only have a day and you only have one thing to do, that is what you need to do. And you can check out our last video to see all of the amazing stops around that loop.
So beautiful.
But try to stay longer so that you can see some of these other things that we're going to talk about in this video, because they are just as amazing and in some ways even more amazing than some of the stuff that you see on Loop Road. Our first example. So our first must-see is Schoodic Point. Now, Schoodic Point is one because it is of all those little pieces of land, it's the one that's the furthest away. It is not even on Mount Desert Island, which is the main island where the loop road's at. You have to go off the island and kind of back up north some to a peninsula called Schoodic Point that is a much smaller area than Mount Desert Island, but it also has its own little loop, one-way loop road around it. But what's so amazing about Schoodic Point is it has a lot of the same beauty that's along the loop road, that rocky coast, those waves crashing on it all the time, but it's so much less traveled. So many less people go up there. I mean, it probably took us a good 45 minutes to get from the top of Mount Desert Island out there to it. So I mean, it's not something that's super close.
No.
But it's so worth it because when you get out there, there's so much less traffic. So many less people go there. We actually got the opportunity to go by ourselves, which is super neat. It was on our anniversary. Our oldest daughter was there, home from college for the summer, and so she was able to watch all the kids, and so we were able to go by ourselves. But it was so amazing, we really wanted to take the kids back, and we just never had time. There's just so much to see.
And, you know, for us, the 45-minute drive there and back was really kind of at first prohibited for us. We thought, we just don't want to waste that time if it's just kind of the same old, same old. It's the same things we've already seen. And I'm so glad that we did. I really wasn't even as excited to go because I thought, well, we've seen so much. We've been here for so long. We were here 2 weeks. What does it have to offer? I will tell you, it is a must-see. You really need to put it at the top of your list of things to do, because Schoodic Point is just a little secret, it feels like, but it also has some really neat things that your kids, you and your kids, are really going to love.
Yeah, lots of great places to pull off as you go around that one-way loop.
Oh, it's
obviously
so beautiful.
The climax is the point, Schoodic Point, which is a big rocky area. But our first family pro tip, here's what we're going to tell you. When you go to Schoodic Point, make sure that you take a picnic lunch and make sure you take some lawn chairs.
Yes.
Because we didn't, and we really wish that we had. We saw so many people that just pulled over, took their lounge chairs out, spread a blanket out on the rock right on the edge of this beautiful coastline, and sat and had their picnic.
It was magical.
A glass of wine, whatever it is you want to have. It was amazing.
So
we didn't do that, so we're going to make sure we tell you to be sure that you do that. Make sure you plan for that. It'd be a great way. You can't find a more beautiful place to have lunch.
But there are little places along the way, and we found one where there was just some little places to get lobster. So if you don't want to pack a lunch, there are some really beautiful places.
There's a cute little town right before you turn out onto the point. So definitely
there is places to eat, but I tell you, you couldn't have picked a prettier spot for a picnic lunch just to enjoy. And that way you don't have to leave. Once you drive all that way out there, you really want to stay, make the most of your time.
If you do take your kids with you, our next family pro tip is make sure you stop by the Schoodic Institute. So once you get to the bottom of Schoodic Peninsula, right at the turnout to the Schoodic Point Overlook, you can turn into the Schoodic Institute. You know, so everything's named Schoodic down here.
It's pretty fun to say those.
I know, Schoodic, or Schoodiac, as I like to say, just to bother Francis to mispronounce it.
Yeah.
But the Schoodic Institute is this beautiful building back behind us that has a really neat naval history. It's where Rockefeller wanted some land that the Navy had, and so he built them a new place to move their communications to. And so there's some really cool, if you've got kids, I would definitely say swing in here.
Very hands-on.
Again, hands-on, Morse code, triangulation, secret code, radio waves. I mean, just some really neat stuff in there. And again, there's just not a lot of people here. And we're here during peak season, and it's just not the same over here. And then I will say, even if you don't have kids, this is like the cleanest national park bathroom I've ever seen in my life. And so
you definitely want to come by. But also there is a ranger here as well.
Yeah, this is an actual visitor center.
Yes.
So up to this point, through both of our videos, we've really just talked about driving these one-way loops. But what if you want to hike? Well, you are in luck. If you're a hiker or especially a biker, there is something that is unique to Acadia National Park called the Carriage Roads. And this is a Rockefeller personalized touch, if you will. When he was there, he really wanted to be able to experience the beauty of the area without getting bogged down in so many roads and things that would pull back from that beauty. And so he built a series of trails that were for horse and carriage, and you can still rent rides on horse and carriages to go on today, but so many more people do bikes or hiking. We did hiking, and the network of trails is huge, or roads rather, is huge, and it goes all over Mount Desert Island. We are going to give you the first family pro tip here is to make sure before you do any of the carriage roads, you stop by the main visitor center because they have a lot of upkeep that they do on the roads, and then weather also has a tendency to wash some of them out sometimes. And so there are always times, it seems like, when some of the carriage roads are closed. But one stop by the main visitor center and they'll pull out, there's a whole map, especially for the carriage roads. They'll pull it out and scratch out what's closed, and then you're good to go. But when you are ready to go, we're going to give you our next family pro tip, and that is the thing to see. Even though there's tons and tons of miles of carriage roads, the thing to see is the Waterfall Bridge. There are several bridges throughout all the roads, and they're all beautiful stone bridges, but Waterfall Bridge is especially amazing because it has a waterfall at it.
And the bridge makes this beautiful, so you can actually hike down beside the bridge, and there is this picturesque moment. It's framed out by the bridge, and the waterfall comes down in a stream. It is amazing. You are going to want to take a picture there. You're going to want to climb.
A lot of pictures there.
Oh, it's so beautiful there. And there's a couple of them. There's just a couple even just right down the road from that. So you can visit.
Yeah, Hadlock Bridge is just, I mean, not even probably 100 yards from it, which is a beautiful bridge. But Waterfall Bridge, like Francis said, you can stand on top of the bridge and see the waterfall. Then you go down and you can play in the waterfall. But then the most iconic thing is just to walk back a little bit and literally just look back through the arch of the bridge at the waterfall. You just can't take enough pictures.
Definitely do it.
And then the neat thing that we figured out is you can hike up the carriage roads. It's probably not. It was only a mile from the parking lot to hike up to Waterfall Bridge. But then we're going to tell you, once you walk down the little trail to get under the bridge, follow that creek, and there's a trail through the woods called Haddock Brook Trail that goes down and connects back with the carriage roads again at the bottom. And so it's just a neat way to kind of get some trail hiking, or some road hiking, as well as some traditional trail hiking, all in one short little hike.
And the Carriage Roads is a great place to be if you have any mobility issues. If you just want to have a little bit more manicured hiking, you're absolutely out in the beauty. You feel there's no cars, there is nothing going by, just some bikers and other hikers, but it's really manicured. It's really well done. But then there's also the hiking. I will say that the Haddock Bridge Trail has a lot of routes, and so that one is a little bit more difficult to manage at times, but something we could have done and our children could have done. It is not difficult, but it is something that's going to be different from the Carriage Roads. So if you do decide to deviate from that, recognize the fact that you need to be aware that it's not going to be like the Carriage Roads. They're just ways to kind of see the park in different areas. So they're wonderful. You can rent bikes. Do it early. We thought we would do it that day, and they were sold out that morning.
Bikes and e-bikes
you can.
in the little towns there,
oh
but you need to plan early to do that.
For sure. So be sure to try to do that. It would be really neat to see a lot of the Carriage Roads where we were just kind of hiking.
We really saw a couple of miles.
So be sure to check that out. And maybe if you're feeling really romantic, make sure that you get a horse-drawn buggy, because wouldn't that be very Rockefeller? So.
So once you're finished with hiking on the Carriage Roads, you want to get back to some iconic beauty, and nothing says Maine like a lighthouse. So really the most iconic lighthouse, you don't want to go to Acadia and miss it, is Bass Lighthouse. All right guys, this is pretty epic. We are at Bass Harbor Lighthouse. This is the only lighthouse on the Maine island, and it's over 100 years old. It is off of kind of the main area where Bar Harbor's at, so it's about a 45-minute drive from Bar Harbor, but so worth it.
It's incredible.
Beautiful lighthouse, and then there's this great trail that you can go right to it, but then there's another trail that brings you down where we're at on the rocky coast down here. There's definitely some rock scrambling and some stairs, but it's not long, like maybe 2/10 of a mile, but so worth it. And we're out here today with this fog that rolled in, and
it's
so
incredible.
I mean, it's like this epic fog with this lighthouse. It's pretty incredible.
Not only that, but you know, there's some tidal pools, because I would come when the tide is out. So we're here kind of in the mid-afternoon, so you want to make sure the tide's out just so you can see the tidal pools. You can get really good access to the lighthouse, but it is beautiful up here, just the rocky edges, and you can just really imagine how devastating it would be if a ship were to miss this and come up on these huge cliffs.
How important this place was 100 years ago.
So definitely put this one on your list. It's a little bit of a drive, but I'm telling you, it is
so worth it.
Kind of remote. It's beautiful,
and it's
it
kind
really,
of the iconic Acadia Lighthouse.
So getting to have this on a foggy day, though we can't see very far, it really gives you an idea of being transported back to when these lighthouses were life or death for sailors.
our first family pro tip is just realize that it's a very small parking lot.
Yes.
Once you turn off of the main road to go down to it, it's probably a half mile of a little skinny road before it gets to the parking lot. But the parking lot's probably only about 20 spaces. But here's the good news. It turns over pretty fast.
It does.
And so what we would tell you is just be prepared to drive down that road and then just wait. And slowly,
but do wait.
Slowly cars will come out and you'll get your chance to pull in and park. Again, because it is so small, there's only like 20 spaces. Like I said, it just turns over quick. There's not really a ton to do there.
Right.
If you've got mobility issues, really you're only going to spend about 10 minutes probably because there's only one place to go. If you scramble out on the rocks, you're still only going to spend about 30 minutes probably. So take your time, just realize it's going to be a little bit of a wait, but you'll eventually get your parking spot. The next family pro tip we're going to tell you is make sure you take some good rock scrambling shoes.
For sure.
Because you're for sure going to want to do that. So when you get to the main parking area, the lighthouse is kind of right in front of you, but you can't really see much, but just a little bit of the back and top of it. And so if you go to the right, there's a very short manicured little boardwalk that goes around and wraps around to the side of the lighthouse. And so you can get right up to it. You can touch it.
Right up to it.
You can see the old historic bell.
Yes.
You can look right up at it. So it's a neat place to go. That's where a lot of the placards are that you can read about the history. Easily accessible, really for almost anybody. It's a little bit of a steep spot, but not too bad. I mean, almost anybody could get down there. And you definitely want to do that so that you can pick up that stuff. But then you want to go back to the parking lot, and now you're going to want to take a left. When you go to the left, you're going to go down a little trail that takes you back up the coastline a little bit. And then there's a set of steps that takes you maybe 3 flights down and dumps you out on the rocky coastline. And when you get dumped out at the bottom, you can't see the lighthouse because you're back up a little bit. But if you scramble out onto the rocks even just a little bit, you can see the lighthouse on top of this amazing rocky cliff.
It's amazing.
And if you scramble out all the way to the edge, you can get some unbelievable pictures. We happened to be there on a foggy morning, which everybody else thought was going to be awful. I thought it was amazing. I mean, you got this lighthouse on this rocky coast on this foggy morning. I mean, like,
so
it just screams Maine to me.
It does.
The next thing we're going to tell you is, our next must-see is for kids for sure. There are lots of great ranger-led programs at Acadia.
They're back.
Some for the birds, some for the coastline, lots of neat things. But if you've got kids, we're going to tell you to do the Carroll Homestead Ranger Program.
For sure.
A couple of really neat things about this one. It's really not that far from where you're going to be at if you head down to the Bass Lighthouse. One of the great things about it is a homestead that they've rebuilt there. Some of the original buildings are there, and then they've added some things. And so you can really see what life was like trying to rough it out on this island, 100 years ago. But the really neat thing about this ranger-led program is it's all day long. It's a come and go ranger program. So most of the other ones have a time slot, right? You got to be at this place during this time. But the Carroll Homestead, there's a ranger out there and a bunch of volunteers all day long. And so you just show up and there they are, and you can walk around and read a bunch of the signs, but don't miss out on the opportunity to interact with the rangers. They are the best part of the program, period. And so don't just go and read the signs and walk past them. Make sure you stop and ask them, what's your favorite thing about the homestead? Tell me something that's really neat here. They got to going. The one that we had that day was, she was amazing.
Over the top awesome.
And she got down on her knees and talked to our kids, and she talked to them about the homestead, and then she started talking to them just about the whole Acadia National Park. She'd been there for like 5 years, and so she'd done everything. And so the Rangers rarely disappoint, and this one was over and above our expectations.
And one of the things we tell you all the time is your park rangers are your tour guides. They are your travel agents for the national parks. These are the people who live, sleep, and breathe it every single day. They are the people who know the best tricks, tips, and hacks to making sure that you get the best experience in every national park. That's their #1 goal, is to help you. They look forward to it. They love to interact with you, and they love to share their passion and their knowledge.
there's so much more to do in and around Acadia. We could fill up probably 5 videos if we wanted to. But the last thing that we're going to tell you is our last must-see is actually a must-eat.
Woo, lots of good food.
Yeah, is always a big part of our family's adventure no matter where we go. And of course, Maine, there are just some iconic things in Maine that you have to eat. And so the 2 things that we're going to tell you are must-eats in Maine are obviously a whole lobster.
Or any lobster.
Or lobster roll.
Lobster pasta, lobster anything. Yeah. Get a lobster.
Well, we got lobster rolls in several of the New England states, but
he got a whole lobster.
So when you go to Maine, when you go to Acadia and you're driving around any of these loop roads and you look out into the ocean, you're going to see it littered with the floats for lobster pots.
Which
so
I love.
know they are catching the lobsters like crazy right there. And so what better place to get a whole lobster? The second thing we're going to tell you that you have to get there is Maine blueberries, and you need to get it as a blueberry pie.
Oh my.
They have blueberry soda, blueberry candy, blueberry jam.
All really good.
All good. But the blueberry pie, we had never had one anywhere else. They have it almost everywhere there, it seems like. But everywhere we had it, it was amazing. So you got to definitely do it. But here's our family pro tip. So there are tons of little lobster shacks everywhere. Every 30 feet it seems like. But we're going to tell you the best one to go to is Trenton Lobster Pound.
In our humble opinion, and you Mainers out there might have a better one, but for us, we had a good bit of lobster.
We went to several, but this one was by far over and above. So you're going to pass it as you drive on to Mount Desert Island. So the bridge that goes over to Mount Desert Island is called Trenton Bridge, and so this is Trenton Bridge Lobster Pound. It's right on the mainland side of the bridge. And what was so neat about it for us is that you go in and you pick your lobster. They have them all right there. Sure. You pick it out. That's the guy I want right there. They weigh him up. You know, he waves his little claw at you. They throw him in a bag that has your number on it, and then they walk right outside and put it in the big, huge boiling pots of water. And so then you can go out there and watch your lobster, and they come out and check on it, and then they come out and take it in, and then it's just a little humble place. I mean, there's probably only like 2 tables inside.
There's always a line.
Then there's like 8 or 10 tables that are in a covered, kind of screened in area, and then there's like 4 tables that are out front. But so worth it. It was not just the amazing lobster, but definitely the whole experience.
It looks out over the water of the bridge. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. And while you're on Schoodic Point, we had the best blueberry pie in the world, and they cook it fresh, and they have this little cute hutch that they put them out in. So these beautiful pies are just sitting there. So find somewhere, because these are homemade. These are made with love. These are made with amazing Maine blueberries, and sometimes you can even pick blueberries at your campsite. We had friends who were at the Narrows, and they had an entire field of blueberries that they were able to pick right in their campsite. So guys, you really have got to make an effort to get up. Those too. Yes, and you've got to go to Maine. You really, really need to go to Maine. Go there in the summer or in the early fall. We've heard the leaves are spectacular, but we were there in the summer. The weather was perfect.
Oh, amazing.
It was beautiful there. We went before the crowds, which is like in June. We went before the crowds really were there, and we had an amazing experience there. It was beautiful. And if you know, you need to recognize, if you see national parks, it's the only one up there on that East Coast. So you know it's going to be different from any other national park that you're going to be at. Arches and some of those out west, they're very close, so they're similar in their topography and their geography, and so you'll see some of the same things, but this one is way out in Maine. You're not going to see anything like it anywhere else in the entire country. So please, it's worth the effort. It's worth the drive to go all the way up into Maine, because you will not only love that Acadia, but all of the New England area captured our heart. We loved it hands down. So find a time to really go all the way out there and spend some time at Acadia, because you will not want to miss it.
So that's it for another family tour guide. 2 parts for Acadia. If you missed the last one, you can click right up there and catch it. And we would love for you to like this video, follow our channel so that you can catch not not only all of our national park tour guides, but all of our weekly travel vlogs, as well as our Tip Tuesdays and maintenance videos for all of our RV repairs. Lots of great stuff on here, and we would love for you to join in and follow along with us and live this crazy adventure. So until next time, go out and have some crazy fun with your crazy family. See you guys.
Bye, guys.